Hi all, this is Liane, and the STAT team has been having a lot of conversations about conversations that are happening around dinner tables at this time of year. So we wanted to invite our friend Cheryl Cage, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
To have a little conversation about, the scenario where you're at a dinner party or you're at a family gathering and your cousin says that they're not going to vote in this next election. So a couple of things, how do you handle when folks say they don't want to participate in the electoral process?
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the things as an activist and as someone who maybe is viewed as a political person, I think you have to just assume that those questions are going to be coming. And I think if you go into the situation knowing that the discussion is going to turn to politics, you can be ready for it. And I think the biggest thing is not to be emotional about it and to understand that not everyone, but a lot of people who comment and say, I'm not going to vote because it doesn't matter, really don't understand the process. And there's a real danger in turning them even further away by making them look silly or, in some way talking down to them. So the first thing that I try to do, and I'm not always successful with this, but the first thing that I try to do is I try to ask them what they mean. So I'll say, wow, that's pretty dramatic. What do you mean by that? Why do you feel that way? And a lot of times if you approach it more as, that's interesting, tell me more, they'll actually do that.
Right.
Because when someone says something like that, a lot of times they're emotional. So that's where I start.
Right.
I start right there. And then the other things that I try to do, and I don't always do this very well, but I try to do it. Because I kind of keep up on everything that's kind of going on, and there's so much going on these days. I mean, literally, if I go to take a nap on a Saturday, I wake up and something dramatic has happened, and that's pretty overwhelming. But I try to keep some statistics in my brain. I try to keep some facts in my brain. So if someone says to me, since Donald Trump has been president, the stock market's the best it's ever been, and the unemployment rate is lower than it's ever been, it's hard to say, no, it's not. You're wrong without having a backup. So if you kind of know that, during the crash, unemployment, like 2008, 2009 was 10%. And then when Barack Obama left office, it was 4.8%. And it's only dropped to 4.3%. That's something that people can't disagree with you about because it's a fact. And again, you don't want to make people feel dumb, but if you're really having a conversation with someone, you need to have your facts. Because if you don't, and I've been there, it just disintegrates into he said, she said, and you're wrong and I'm right.
I think there's a lot of data available. Yeah. And folks are harvesting data from a whole lot of places. Yeah. And so, I guess the essence of the question, because I think you're right, I think data is important for us to have some kind of ground from which to speak on together as equals. But how do you, as a political person, I'm sorry to describe you, I should have you describe yourself, if you view yourself as a political person, someone who's a citizen, an
active citizen,
active citizen who believes in civic participation because that's what you devoted your life to. I hear you when you say that you're wanting to come from a place that's not too emotional, but this is a big deal. In our conversations, I know, So how do you approach people that you love and have compassion and care for, who are making the choice to not participate? How do you have that how do you carry those ideas of, wanting to pull data and convince somebody with an argument, and also having care, compassion, and concern for someone that you love to participate, because this is how, as Dr. Cornel West said, justice is how love looks in public. And so I'm just wondering, like, how do you, as an individual who has devoted so much time, how do you gird yourself?
Yeah, and it really is girding yourself, isn't it? Well, I think there's a couple of different questions in there, and how do you get someone? So I hear two questions. One is, how do you debate someone who completely disagrees with everything that you believe in?
Right.
But then how do you get someone involved who is so fed up and so sick of this? So I'll take the second question first.
Okay.
One of the things that I think makes a difference, again, is approaching someone with, and I say this all the time, I go, this is a passion of mine. This is why I know a lot about this. So, if you're talking to someone who doesn't want to be involved and they're an artist, I say, I know nothing about art. That's what your passion is. This happens to be my passion. So I then try to make it easy for them to become involved. I'll give them baby steps. So if it's someone that is in my family or that I talk to all the time, I'll say, "Are you registered?" And sometimes I'll take a voter registration form to them and I'll help them fill it out. And I'll just say, "Look, just do this for me. You don't have to, you don't have to vote if you don't want to, but I'd really like you to at least have the option to do that." And if you take it incrementally, it makes it easier. And when you make it easy for people to do this, they're more likely to do it. So there's that. Then there's back to the other thing about what do you do when you have people that just don't agree with you? I think at a point, and I'll give you an example. A member of my family who I love with all my heart. But I finally said to this individual, you have to stop, because the things that you're saying to me, you know me well, and you're pushing my buttons. You and I have to agree to disagree. I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change mine. So let's just not do this anymore. And it's been a struggle, but this person kind of looked at me and went, yeah, I am kind of pushing your buttons. And we'll get into it again, I know.
Oh, sure.
But sometimes you just say, you need to stop, you're hurting me. Because a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with emotions and not facts, it's all about pushing the other person's buttons. It's so easy to do, isn't it?
It is, especially when you love someone because you know them.
Yeah, and you give them. I think for me in this person, I let this person talk, and I listened, and I took as much of it in as I could, because I was trying to do that thing that I suggested at the beginning. Tell me why you feel this way. And there were so many inconsistencies and so many untruths that I couldn't help but start kind of getting emotional, and especially when you love someone, you can get emotional with them because they're not going to go anywhere. Right. So, I don't have the answers, but those are the kind of the things that have kind of worked for me. And I think I'm like everybody else. I just kind of feel my way through it. But really trying not to become emotional is the biggest thing. Yeah. The biggest thing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate that.
No, this is great.
And so we're going to continue this conversation, and I hope that you will join in. I hope you'll comment below. And let's get free together. Thank you.